Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Capital City Culture Redefined International Business and Networking Panel. And this afternoon, we have some wonderful panelists that have experience international business, entrepreneurship, and we're going to learn from them today some vital tips and resources when it comes to networking, building your business, scaling it from an organization to a national organization, to an international organization. So we have some really great folks with us. So I want to just give an opportunity for our panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your business. Let's start with Tony.
Good day, everyone. I think it's safer to say good day because it's about 12:30 after midnight in Johannesburg, South Africa. My name is Tony Souls. I'm currently a admitted practicing corporate attorney registered at the High Court Bar of South Gauteng, Johannesburg. My core business is I do legal frameworks and investment facilitation for infrastructure development and development programs or projects. Also in terms of social outreach, I'm currently a volunteer attorney for emergency COVID funding, for grant funding, which I actually volunteer to raise that grant funding and distribute it, bring different networking and non-profit organizations together and assist them in raising funding or grant funding for much needed food parcels and dignity packs and so on. One of the clients I have on my book, amongst others, because I do have clients based in the US, my network spread as far as the US, Turkey, Russia, Tanzania in Africa, and then also Angola in Africa and in South Africa. And one of the clients I have in my book, I profile, is the House of Mandela, which is co-owned by Dr. Makaziwe Mandela, which is the eldest daughter of Nelson, our great late Nelson Mandela, and also co-owned by her daughter to Queenie Mandela. And their business has three pillars to it. One is the beverages, which is House of Mandela wine, which is currently distributed in the US under the Sauvignon Blanc label. And then also the art, which most may not know that the great Nelson Mandela I used to sketch with chalk. So that is part of the art, and then about 17 pieces out of their original still exist. And most of those are currently based and held in the US, currently up for sale. And then also the mint. And under the mint, they have your Mandela coins, both in platinum and gold, and then also hand-made jewelry and beading. That's in a nutshell what I do, because I'm the in-house legal advisor to the House of Mandela currently, and obviously to other clients. And in a nutshell, that's who I am and that's what I do. And I'm proud and humbled to be part of this with my co and fellow panelists here. Great to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And wow, such many things that you have with your business, and we're excited to learn more about that international lens and how you've been able to scale and work with different businesses in those countries. And so let's move right along to Jennifer White.
Greetings, and thank you to the Swaliga Foundation and the wonderful work you all have been doing for years. I've been eager to connect, so very honored to be here. I'm Jennifer White, and I'm the current CEO of Roots and Vines Wine, and it's a collective of Black women investors who are importing award-winning premium wine from South Africa made by Black women. And this effort came out of was really evolved out of an organization I founded back in 2016, which is Sister Circle. And Sister Circle connects Black women around the globe through healing arts and entrepreneurship. Healing arts, in that as women, we very often give all of our first everythings to everyone else in caretaking for children and families, and really need to reserve space to for self-care and self-love and for healing for ourselves. And secondly, entrepreneurship, in that just was connected to so many women who had degrees, were well educated and had great careers and jobs and doctors and lawyers, and but didn't really have a business, didn't really have a product. That when we traveled to Africa for the last 10, 15 years, the African women just were so impressive in terms of their business skills, their business acumen, their hustle, their grind, right? And just their ability to balance family and business as well. And so the wine is our first effort in terms of building economic pipelines between Black women in the US and Africa in the diaspora. And the second industry we're looking at is shea butter from Ghana. And just really trying to look at creating economic pipelines between Black women with intention to really support and provide wealth for Black women, their families and communities for 7 generations. And I'm very happy to be here, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I'm so excited to learn more about how you've been able to scale and then also be impactful with connecting women. And I think that's just very empowering. So I'm excited to hear more from you. So moving right along, let's hear from Antoinette Fields.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Antoinette Fields. I am the owner and creator of Royal Keepers Products. I make all natural hair and skin products for all ages, all skin types, all hair types. I have over 80 items that I create as far along as oils, shampoos, conditioners, body butters, beard butters, face mask, hair masks, sprays. The list goes on and on. I always say, if you have hair and skin, I have what you need. So there's no limits. I work full-time from home. My basement is a factory, if you will, and I love what I do. Everything is created by me with the knowledge that I've been given over my passion that I've studied for years on my own. So that's what I do. I do sell internationally. I was able to develop and to grow my business through social media, through the power of social media. And that is how I've been able to spread across 6 continents around the globe. And I just keep pushing, and I love what I do, and I'm happy to be here.
We are so happy to have you, and I'm sure I'm going to have to buy one of your products.
You will love it.
And how to really, grow that and be healthy with it. So super excited to learn from you as well. All right, last but not least, Mr. Patterson, please introduce yourself and what do you do?
Good evening, everyone, again. The main thing that I do it for free, and that's global transcendence. Global transcendence is a model that is a family model, if you will, that responds to violence and brings people from violence to self-sufficiency. I am an owner of the public mental health system, and I noticed there was a big disconnect between the public mental health system and those people who were impacted by violence. I would get to work after seeing lots of teddy bears and baby dolls and everything wrapped around posts, and then I would get to work and everybody was business as usual, but there was a teddy bear right across the street. And I noticed that in Washington, D.C., that was the normal thing, and people just kept moving. But I knew that that was a tombstone, and most likely it was for a child. So I got involved eventually, and I, as the CEO of Universal Healthcare, which I'm not anymore, I stepped down. I'm just the owner. There's another CEO now. We have psychiatrists, licensed clinical social workers, psychologists, and all that kind of thing. And I'm trying to get them to integrate into the community more. And so even today, as we speak, we are currently responding to acts of violence and murder in the capital city. The philanthropic organization, is the name of that is Global Transcendence. And that simply means that we're in Washington, D.C., the superpower of the world. And the people of color in the Washington, D.C., how should I put this? The presentation is not that great. We have all the universities, but the unification is really not there. And so my goal is to unite, and I'm happy to be here this evening because it's different people, and that elevates me because I love to figure out how to unite with others. So for the sake of moving forward, that's good enough for me as an introduction.
No, and I just wanted to give a personal shout out because I remember you specifically with Lamont spoke so highly of you and the work that you were doing in DC and with crime and with mental health and wellness. And so I just wanted to thank you for being a leader within the DC community and lifting things up that has been issues for a very, very long time. And so thank you all for introducing yourselves, and we're going to get into a really dynamic discussion. I first want to introduce myself because I forgot to even introduce who the moderator is. And so again, my name is Ashley Johnson. I am the CEO and owner of A&J PR Consulting LLC, which is a PR marketing agency. And we have been a huge fan of the Swaliga Foundation for, it's been a couple of years now, I think about 4 years. The Swaliga Foundation has been a client of ours, and really just happy that they have been able to have this program with the Sister Cities grant that really puts together a global conversation on business and leadership and networking and the importance of, building communities of color globally. And so we're super excited to kick off this conference with this panel discussion. So the first question I want to ask Antoinette is, how do you start a business? What do you need to start a business? From your personal experience, how did you start your business and how did you scale it to where it is today?
Sure, I'd love to answer that question. I think the way I started it is very unique compared to the way most people have probably started their businesses. The first thing you need, one, is a mindset and an idea and a goal in mind. For me, it was during a time in my life where I didn't really have a lot, but I felt the calling to start a business. And so that's what I did. I had already developed a pretty popular social media page, LocksWorld_OneLove. Look me up. At that time, I had about 13,000 followers, which was pretty big, but also pretty small. And so one of my friends was like, do you know you can start a business? And I'm like, really? Because I never thought about that before. And so I'm like, well, let me just start a business. So I took my tax refund and I became an LLC. With that, I'd always had a passion for hair and skincare and creating natural products. I always mixed and created things in my bathroom for years since I was in high school. And so a year after starting my LLC, I created my first product and I started it with $20. But the greatness in that was that I already developed a fan base and I already developed an authority through social media to where I was known for giving great hair advice. I was known for distributing the knowledge that I had about hair, the natural herbs and oils that you can use for hair and skin. So I already had developed that platform for myself without realizing how I can scale it and without even trying to scale it, actually. So I took my little $20 and I saved up for a week. I bought a few ingredients. The next week I had another $20, bought a few more ingredients. By the third week, I had maybe 7 or 8 ingredients and I just got in the bathroom and I made magic. And I said, hey guys, I made an oil. Who wants to buy it? And I had my first sale, February 2017 or 16. And that's how I started. And the oil was just very powerful. It was healing. It worked. You were able to use it for your skin to moisturize, to heal conditions like eczema, psoriasis, psoriatic dermatitis, itching, dandruff, hair growth. just overall healing, and hair food and vitamins. And so that's how I started. From then, I went from having one product in mind to now having over 80 products, all that produce different results, and all that are phenomenal. So I scaled primarily using content for social media. I had a wide range of followers. Currently I have 139,000 followers on my Locks World page. Since then, I have also developed a second page targeted directly to my product line. And I have about over 6,000 followers, close to 7,000 followers. So marketing is very important, and developing daily content is very important, and keeping your audience engaged is very important. Showing them that you're passionate about what you do, showing them that you have knowledge behind what you do is very important. And the biggest advice I could give to anyone is to stay consistent. Consistency is the best thing. If you have a craft, you need to work in that craft every single day. If you earn $1 from that craft, work on it the next day and the next day and the next day, until you are where you want to be. And always scale yourself up. Never be satisfied, because you can always do better. You can always manipulate something to make the content greater, to reach a broader audience.
That is very true. You always want to be innovative and continue to think of different ways to scale your business and your products, which is great. And you hit it, marketing is so vital, especially now with everyone being in the digital age and having to use it to connect during a global pandemic. You definitely want to maximize the time and create content to your point that's really relevant and consistent, for sure. And so, Jennifer, I want to ask you, what do you think is the most important thing you need in order to start a business? And then, similar to what I was asking Antoinette, how can you scale the business?
So I would say, in terms of what's important when starting a business, and we talk to women and entrepreneurs about this all the time, is really passion, right? We talk about, what would you do if you had $1 million in the bank, right? Like, what would you do that you didn't have to get paid for? Like, what would you want to do so that your work doesn't feel like work? It feels like passion. It feels like something that you love to do. So that's something I would say, like, that your passion would need to be in your business. And in terms of scaling, I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm still scaling, right? So we've just been consistent, I guess. So for instance, I guess, like, I've been doing tours to Africa for about 13 years. And so just periodically just sharing what we're doing on social media, right? So not like a concerted marketing effort per se, but just sharing what we do. And so just growing a following over the last 10, 15 years. And so then when we did launch a business, we did have support and people who were, oh, you've been going to Africa. I've been following you. Oh, you're investing in Africa. Oh, I've been wanting to invest in Africa, and, not knowing how to get in. And so just kind of sharing these connections and information. So we're still in the process of scaling. So I don't really have a better answer than that for that question.
No, and that's important, because if you want to continue to be relevant in your market or your field, you should always be scaling. So it's always evolving door. And so that's why the innovation piece is important, that Antoinette pointed out about making sure that you're creating products that are relevant, you're creating content that's relevant to meet your audience. And so I think, Tony, you can really speak on the scalability, because you have not only worked with historical figures from an international perspective, but you've been able to build clientele. And so I wanted to talk to you about how you were able to scale your business, and also too, how you were able to really build your business from an international lens, working with different countries. Can you speak towards that?
Was that question to me?
Yes, it was. You want me to repeat it?
I like to share this to say, first of all, my first business that I started was when I was about 9 years old, and my brother Calvin was currently based in California, Los Angeles, California. He was about 11 years old, and we used to have a half bully, half older community brother when we still shared community culture in the township of Clifton, Soweto, whose father used to be in the business of selling coal, for energy and for fire and heat and all that kind of stuff. So we used to borrow his wheelbarrow from time to time and transport people from a pub, or what we used to call then a shebeen in South Africa. And then we charged them 20 cents each to drop all the people who's a bit under the influence door to door at their homes. And later on, we grew our funds and we could actually invest in a bigger wheelbarrow, and we now started delivering couples door to door and make sure they get home safe, give them a lift in our wheelbarrow, pushing them. And so you can imagine the muscle we grew then, okay? So we never joined gyms and stuff like that. So we had to, and that normally we did it over Friday nights and Saturday nights, Friday evening and Saturday evenings. Our parents never knew about it, by the way. They thought we were playing outside with the other kids. Then when I got into the field, being passionate about human rights, and the law and the rights of people, I became a lawyer thereafter, but then soon thereafter followed into going into corporate law, where I would actually look and spread my market interest of and passion for investment and infrastructure and development. So and that's a wide spectrum. And one of my philosophies is that no man is an island, okay? And therefore I started through my network. There were clients based in South Africa who were also having their head offices in the US, in Turkey and Russia. And I began to create formulas through my law firm and my consulting firm together, and putting together formulas to attract investment, facilitation, and identifying both government and private sector projects that requires investment money that is actually competitive to the local financial market for investment in terms of return on investment. And then also the outreach work, and in that case you find the need for organized communities. And then what I began to do with obviously the support of like-minded visionaries like myself, to put together what we call community skills training and development programs. Because in South Africa, specifically so, and I think in the US the problem, and all over the world the problem is the same, when we have a huge number of unemployed youth. And working with the youth, because you can't move any further or wisely if you don't invest in the future. And that's exactly how we met with my adoptive nephew of Swaliga, Lamont, in terms of skills development and training for the youth. But we also differentiate the belief between creating opportunities and creating empowerment, because to us, creating a job for someone is creating an opportunity, but training entrepreneurs and guiding them into business people is actually empowerment. And then also shared resources creates and shared networking also create sustainability. So for us, our belief is that we can all work together. This world is not as big as we perceive it to be, because the network that exists out there is greater than we can think of. So for me, that's my experience currently. And we continue to build and grow into that field or area of work.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I wanted to just ask you a quick question around the theme of networking and, you know, rallying community partners to focus on one initiative, and you spoke on the learning for you. Was that difficult as far as getting community partners and getting advocates and supporters to feed into the work that you were doing for youth and learning? And if it wasn't, or if it was, what are some ways you can give people advice on networking and creating partnerships with folks? Because I know that sometimes, starting out as an entrepreneur, that can be difficult. So any tips that you have around networking and building partners, community partners, to help tackle issues in the community?
So I'm assuming that question, is that you, Tony? Go ahead.
Yes.
I was happy you saved me.
The shared networking. It becomes difficult sometimes for someone else to really buy into it unless you believe in yourself and believe in your vision. And I think we all, as business people, would actually have experienced it or continue to experience it. It's important to believe in your own vision. Now, I always used to pray when I had a 9 to 5, for example. I always used to pray, because when I came back from exile in the US, I came back to South Africa for my short stint in the US, schooling there and coming back home. We have to do what we got to do. And one of the challenges I faced was knocking on doors and so on. But I always used to pray when I was deployed into government as my first job when I returned home, was that I always prayed and say, I want to live comfortably affordable. And I prayed for that. And, you got to be careful what we ask God for, because he'll give it to you. And I've realized that wasn't enough, because that's not really my purpose. And I prayed for abundance, and not only materialistic or materially, but otherwise too. Okay. And currently, for example, with the COVID emergency funding that we have begun to do, I've realized how non-profit organizations work in silos, all right, and struggling to access local government grant funding and other grant funding, like which we have in the triple black economic empowerment policies of the country, which multinationals are bound by law to invest in, is what we call ED spend. And ED spend stands for enterprise development spend. The challenge that you face is that most of the black-run non-profits are not organized in terms of, because South Africa has organized itself and set standards, global standards for itself in terms of accessing that funding. Yet we forgot and we left our people behind because they do not meet the regulatory requirements thereof, although they do very good work. So we got into the field of assisting them over a 6-month to a 1-year period in how to complete the application forms to get access to this funding. And we continue to do so for example, now for the COVID emergency funding, and through that we've been putting together a network with regular conversations through virtual communication, meetings, and so on. And we are in the next few weeks, which is the first Thursday of November this year, we'll be having a workshop, a 1-day workshop, in where the objective or the main objective would be that of resource sharing and network sharing. And how can we put our resources together under one umbrella in a unified way? And then we can do a lot of more impact work than we're currently doing. So that's basically the experience. And this just keeps on growing, So putting ideas together, having the will and commitment to work together, but we also ensure the principles of ethics, commitment, transparency, honesty, and also generosity. And we all are buying into that, and it's going very, very well currently. And I'm enjoying it big time.
Good. It's important that you enjoy the work that you do in order to sustain and keep it moving. You have to be passionate about it, as Jennifer mentioned. And I think, Mr. Patterson, you had a perspective on how do you rally community partners and advocates and people to pour into the mission that you have cultivated. And I know you can speak on that specifically with Global Transcendence and the work that you have been doing in the DC area. So what advice can you give to folks that are struggling for the support, struggling for the partners, struggling for people to really feed into the vision that they have and giving back to the community?
Well, I think it's really important when you have a vision and a passion to do something. A lot of times we forget to put together a board of directors. And when you put the board of directors together, the ideology is that you control the board. Well, that was a rude awakening for me when I came to the realization that the board was pretty much in charge of the business. That was an eye-opener. Because I would go home and I would be uptight because the board didn't vote and stand behind my ideas and my point of view. But anyway, obviously I put together a board who were independent. They were very resourceful. They brought a lot of experience and knowledge to the table. And they would take my vision and they would begin to work with it and sleep with it and volunteer their time and services to help shape the vision. In so doing, they brought a lot of ideas and relationships and possibilities that I didn't have on my own. And I began to fall in love with my board. But it's like a marriage, you know, sometimes you can't stand one of them. And I actually had some really strange experiences on the board, but it is in fact one of the greatest tools to brainstorm ideas and possibilities. And I think that's very critical, particularly for people of color. When you get into business, it's not just you and your passion and the targeted folks that you're dealing with. But if you plan to build your business to scale, you will need a board of directors.
Yes, I think that's actually really great advice, to have a board of advisors or directors, whatever you want to call it, because you need that group of people to really give you their advice, who have the best interest at heart for the organization. And that's vital because sometimes you're going to be uncertain of certain decisions that you have to make. And so I think that's a really, really key advice. And I want to just, and this can be anybody, I know we're close to the end, but I want to make sure that we really provide some good advice to folks that are looking at entrepreneurship and business. So this is for any of the panelists. What's one advice that you would tell someone who's looking at entrepreneurship, whether it be a resource that you would tell them to look into, whether it be a book, whether it be a skill set that they should have? What advice would you give someone that's really considering entrepreneurship for the first time? And this is for anybody.
Okay, I can come in there and say that, remember when you get into becoming an entrepreneur, when you have a job, which I call an opportunity, you're in your comfort zone, okay? But keep in mind that when you want to become an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs, when we become successful, we create jobs and we empower others, then you must be ready to get out of your comfort zone, night and day, working anytime when it's necessary. But it's key, like Mr. Patterson was saying, you gotta, when you say board of directors, you mean an organized way of doing things. So be ready to be out of your comfort zone, because when you become your own boss, you also have a duty then to create opportunities for others. And then that's why we say in the world today, we need more entrepreneurs. And when we speak now, we're speaking global language by saying, because no more can you just focus on your own community, because your target market is broader than that. And then secondly, whichever subject of interest that you find for as your passion, getting into business, needs to be something that you're really passionate about, and doing that. And then also importantly to know is what is it that what people really need that you don't see being provided for people. And that's how your apples, a cell phone, airtime or call time has been created. It is something that people, that's why we can talk the way we are talking, because someone out there was very creative and found something that people needed more than ever, the missing link. So you must always be part of becoming that missing link that the puzzle requires to complete the puzzle. And those things are it's not rocket science. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to actually find and see those opportunities. So for me, yes, it's about passion, commitment, being open-minded, and being ready to be out of your comfort zone. Thank you.
Yes, that was excellent. Well said, well said. Get out your comfort zone. Make sure that you are really providing a need to the community. Those are really key points. Does anybody have anything else to share?
Yes, I was going to add, you asked some questions about networking and, building your community as you go. And so I just wanted to speak to the importance of your network, right? I was raised in an office, in the community programs office at UCLA, which really followed the teachings of Steve Biko, right? So it was an office of Black consciousness and conversation and discussion and reading. And who is extremely important, right? Like there are always rules, there are guidelines, there are policies, but policies are general guidelines, and it depends on who those can be bent. So not always, but I'm just saying that it's crucial to consider your network as part of your value. And I think to really build relationships moving forward with honesty and integrity is something that is needed. And so when you build your friendships and you build your relationships, getting to know people internationally is really about your people skills, right? It's really about for us anyway, like face-to-face interaction, that once it comes down to brass tacks, it's that on-ground interaction. And so how are you able to connect with people? Asking people where they're from, what their background is. I think connecting and sharing our stories, especially as women, when we travel as business women, really helps connect us to other people's experiences. And it helps us realize that we have much more in common than we do differences. And so just really the value of human connection, and valuing that, and just again the principles of honesty and integrity when you're moving forward, because it will be evident when it comes to your business and you call on people for favors who understand what you do. Your honesty and integrity will be on people's mind. And so I think it's just important to walk in that way.
It is so vital, because you see a lot of businesses that don't sustain because they don't have the values of honesty and integrity, which is so important to maintaining relationships, especially in the business world. So that is so great as far as the networking piece. And I heard recently, policies is really someone's agenda. So if you're able to have a good relationship, you can influence somebody's agenda. And that is key, why honesty and integrity is important. So Jennifer, thank you for sharing that. I know someone needs to hear that. What about you, Antoinette? Anything you want to, any last minute advice you want to give to the folks that are tuning in, that are thinking about entrepreneurship for the first time? I know you spoke about marketing and social media, but what are some other things that you probably would have wanted someone to tell you when you first started with your business?
That's a great question. What would I wanted someone to tell me? That it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. You have to be, I think renewing your mindset is everything, because we're not taught to be entrepreneurs in a school age setting. So when you are becoming an entrepreneur, you really start to change your mindset, and even just the way that you think about yourself, the confidence that you have within yourself. Because like Tony said, you have to step out of your comfort zone. So therefore you have to be more confident in yourself to be able to get up in front of people and to express yourself, or to share your goals, or to share your ideas, or to go into a meeting and run that meeting. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of, energy to get that done. And like, I think networking is very important. Before COVID-19, of course, I was constantly, participating in seminars and what I call shows, where there's 100 other businesses around me, and I'm walking around the room and I'm talking to other entrepreneurs. I'm getting their ideas on how they started and what they do for their business. And I'm taking and absorbing all of that in, and seeing how I can use that knowledge and that information for myself. Another thing that I love to do, that I've done for years on social media, is I connect with other businesses on social media. I'll have like a Black Business Friday, where all the businesses that follow my page have an opportunity to promote their businesses for free. And then I can connect with them one-on-one and say, hey, I like what you do. That's very interesting. Or a lot of people actually reach out to me and say, hey, how do you do what you do? And I don't hesitate to give them all the information and knowledge that I can give them to help spread that wealth, because there's room here for everyone. No one is my competition. We all are here to do our job. I think it's important that when you find your passion, that that's your gift to the world. And that's why I call my products royal keepers, because one, we're all royalty. Two, it is our job to be each other's keeper. And so this is my way of being the keeper to the world, because I'm giving you all healing products that are beneficial to your hair and skin, that are not harmful to you. So I am doing my part that I was created to do, because this is the gift that God gave me. So I think that it's important, when we find that gift, that we utilize it, and we have a proper mindset attached to that, so that we're not going to fall, while trying to grow. We're just always going to elevate. Every year I say I'm going to make more sales. Every year I'm going to get better at my craft. Every year I'm going to become a better master at what I do. I am the leader. No one can control how much money I make. I control how much money I make. So it's about the mindset. It's about how you think and how you operate, and you'll naturally move in that form. So renewing the mind is super, super important. And I had to teach myself that. So that's my tidbit.
That is so great. I love the renewing the mind, because I have been in that whole space of renewing the mind. And you said it, education and knowledge is so important in entrepreneurship. And the way that you can do it, like you said, social media, connecting on those different Facebook groups, like you said, connecting with different people. Hey, I like how you did this. We'd love to learn more. Those are ways that you can really push and get to higher heights with your entrepreneurship. But I truly believe tapping into the mental and the education is very important in order for you to grow as a business owner and entrepreneur. And that also means having conversations. I love how you said, no one's competition. So it should be, we need to cultivate more opportunities where we're able to knock on people's door and not feel like we have to have money in our pockets, or not feel intimidated because we haven't gotten to the places that they have. So really great stuff, guys. And now I understand why Lamont put together you all as panelists, because you guys are bringing the heat with really great information. And so I want to thank each and every one of you all. And as we close this panel, I want to give each of you all the opportunity to provide any closing remarks. How can folks get connected with you? How can they support your business venture? Please tell us. So, Mr. Patterson, would you like to kick it off with our closeout?
Well, business has ups and downs. You know, you have peaks and valleys. And when you're in the valley, sometimes, you know, things get really stressful. So business can be extremely stressful. And how the panel has talked about some very important things. What type of people you have around you. I practice meditation. So I'm not a religious guy, even though my father was a minister. What works for me is meditation, and so that's very critical. I'm also running a medical operation. I have access to Medicaid and to commercial insurances, and it's difficult sometimes in your head. You have to counsel your head, you know, to stick by policies and procedures, to make sure that, you know, when things are difficult, that broke is broke. If you didn't do the work, you can't bill. Medicaid fraud is a big area. And I came into this business understanding, because I was national starting out, and I provided services in California to hospitals in Florida and so on and so forth. And I watched a lot of people commit Medicaid fraud and go to jail. And so I've learned to be broke when I'm in the valley, and that you know, based on my meditation and based on my comfort zones, I understand that happiness is internal. And so you have to put money in its proper perspective and know what your passion is and stick to that. Thank you.
Yes, happiness is very important. Very, very important, because there are peaks and valleys of entrepreneurship. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. All right, closing remarks. How about Jennifer? Then we'll go to Tony, and then last but not least, Antoinette.
Good, very good. Thank you again for inviting me to be part of this panel. Happy to share what I know, and yes, just offer any resources that we can. Last piece of advice I'd like to offer. You mentioned the importance of education. And yes, we can use social media for that, and we do, but I also want us to revisit books, right? Like reading old school books, right? I just finished reading, which is not, it's old, but of course his name is slipping my mind. Reginald Lewis, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun, right? So reading a book about business, reading a book about some successful Black business person, so that you can learn some things you would like to emulate and some things that you would not, right? Or reading about things in your field. Like we're in the business of wine now, and so I'm reading The Business of Sustainable Wine by Miss Sandra Taylor, who's been a Black woman in sustainability for 20 years. And so connecting with, you know, you can reach out to these people, and well, not Reginald Lewis, but you know, I reached out to Sandra Taylor, and she reached back, and we had a conversation. And you know, these people who are at the forefront of their field are sometimes very accessible and very often not reached out to. And so, you know, finding people, information, books, experts who are in your subject matter, and taking some time to do that, even movies, you know, to research, give you different ideas about your field. Like I like rereading Malidoma Somé, The Healing Wisdom of Africa, to just kind of help me revisit my healing and the way I connect with my community, and that we practice ritual on living in a Western world, but having African roots, right? And so books that connect me to this, where I can use this for conversation, right? And so to not forget about the old school paper, that can also provide a lot of information and expansion as well. And then I would just close by saying, Roots and Vines Wine is our business, right? We're only over for 21 people, 21 and over, but we are always looking for interns when it comes to administration, when it comes to marketing, social media, logistics and international business, because we do import export. So we like connecting with young people who are in these fields and looking for hands-on experience. So if people are interested in that, they can email sistercircle619@gmail.com. That's sistercircle619@gmail.com. And our Instagram page also just kind of lists some of our the opportunities for internships, and that's Roots and Vines Wine. And again, we, our passion comes from going to South Africa and going on a wine tour and learning about the treatment of Black women on wine, on these wine farms for over 300 years. In an industry that, you know, is not very well known still to this day, the South African wine industry. And just as Black women connecting to that, right? Being from California, like, you know, we know Mexican grape pickers, Filipino grape pickers, like we're familiar with the farm workers movement, but we had never conceptualized that these farm workers could look like us. And so what can we do to connect with that and to provide opportunities, being that we're in America, being that they're in South Africa, the land of resources, the land of plenty. So how can we use our relationships to work together to capitalize on our strengths? So to just, you know, constantly provide space, and we're happy to always do that as well. So we love to connect that sister circle as well. Thank you.
Wow, yes, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people emailing me because I have never heard of an initiative like that. And so thank you for pouring into this discussion. Key points that I've taken away is the mental stimulation. Let's remember we have books, we have audio books, we have documentaries, we have other opportunities to learn outside of, like I'm saying, social media. And so thank you for those book recommendations as well.
And I'm sorry if I just, you know, no one really mentioned it yet, but a critical part of our business was AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which is a policy in the United States that's been in effect for 20 years that allows for duty-free, tax-free imports from Africa to the US. So our wine business is, what can we do to capitalize on this policy that's been around, that African Americans have been asleep on, that Africans have largely been unable to access the information, the certification, as Tony said, to be able to export. So how can we educate people about import, export, about AGOA? Trump, who we don't love, but he funded the BUILD Act. He put $60 billion to fund AGOA, to fund businesses under Prosper Africa and all these US foreign policies that are whack on a lot of different levels, but have access to resources for businesses. And so we try to connect people, especially Black women, to this information and resources. And so we keep these conversations going. We try to make them dinner table conversations because people don't really talk about this. So I'm sorry, but that's my last.
No, thank you for that. That's super important, that information that you just shared, because I know I myself wasn't aware of that opportunity. So thank you. And Tony, could you close us out with some closing remarks? How can we connect with you? Any words of encouragement for the newly entrepreneurs?
I'm actually breathlessly excited to be part of this panel today, because again, it's about network sharing and resource sharing, and also humbled by the my fellow panel members on this platform tonight, or this morning, as it is in South Africa. I believe in the 3 C's, the concepts, competency, and connections. Once you have that, the sky is not the limit when it comes to opportunities. In my own experience, I never say no to any business as long as it's legit and clean. For example, because of the network that I have, my fellow panel members, I already saw the opportunities in doing business with them. When you talk about wine, I have wine, supreme, exclusive wine that I can help getting access to. When you talk about black hair and for weaving and you name it, I have access to that. And when you talk about rehabilitating and the medical industry with regard to assisting and helping those who are out of rehabilitation and moving forward and accessing and introducing them to the normal world again, I have access to those opportunities. So now you can imagine how does that happen? It just happens because no man is an island. So it's about zone, it's about networking, and the sky is not the limit. So I would encourage everyone to continue doing what you're doing. Never give up on yourself, because the only person that can give up on you is you and no one else. And you can see there are stand on our shoulders. Let's stand on one another's shoulders and learn from the mistakes of others. We don't all have to commit and make the same mistakes. Learn, read, research, and learn from one another. And those you disagree with are not always wrong. Okay, what is it? What positive can you learn out of those who differ with you, whom you differ with, and look at that opportunities and so on. The world is smaller than we think in terms of networking. Opportunities are out there and unlimited, and I experience it every day. I live a miraculous, spiritual, satisfactory life every day in my life. And remember, being an entrepreneur is not only about wealth, and that's why I always say, I never run after money. I create opportunities for money to follow me. Yeah. And wealth is not always money. It's not the only wealth, but I think it's 1% of what wealth is truly about. So do not be confined by the ways of this world, but allow yourself, open yourself up, to challenging opportunities and take it on.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. Thank you, Tony, for that closing. Thank you to all the panelists. Let's just give ourselves a virtual clap. Did it. Wonderful job. Thank you for pouring into the Swaliga Foundation Culture Redefined Conference. I hope that you all have learned something as well as panelists. I know I have. And thank you so much for having me as your moderator. I hope that you all have a wonderful night, morning to those in a different time zone, and wishing you all the best with your business. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. While we still have you, for the recording before we head out. So what we're gonna do on the count of 3, we're gonna get everybody to say Swaliga, baby. Okay? All right, here we go. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Swaliga,
baby.
Love it. Nice.
Oh, look. I gotta make it to heaven. I got it here in the present. Hold up. Said I gotta make it to heaven. I got it here in the present. Look. See, I remember riding through them Philly streets like that. Wishing it could be me that you whip T up on your TV screen. Wishing I could be dropping all of them bars, rocking all of them crowds. Now we all in them cars. I'm talking about the fast ones. You know the ones where them doors ride out. That one.
All right, so let's get started. Thank you guys so much for your patience. I'm hoping that you guys can hear me okay. So, Lamont, can we go ahead? Perfect. Welcome to the Capital City Redefined Conference in sponsorship by the Swaliga Foundation in partnership with their grants, the Sister Cities grant. And so we're super excited to have a dynamic panel discussion on the arts. And so we have a group of people here with us this afternoon that come from many walks of life in the arts industry, internationally and local within the DMV area. And so, first of all, I would like to introduce myself, who has the pleasure of moderating this dynamic discussion. My name is Ashley Johnson. I am the CEO of A&J PR Consulting, LLC. We are a PR marketing agency based in the DMV area. And so I'm super excited to moderate this discussion on the arts and music. And so I would like for each of the panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Entity, who is sitting with me here in the studio. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you're excited to be a part of this panel discussion.
All right. My name is Entity. I am a Washington, D.C. bred artist from Southeast Washington, D.C., do Gallatin School of the Arts. I've been doing music for over 15 years, producer. I'm also COO of Olay Entertainment, partner with Swaliga, baby. We're going to be doing this Sister Cities project where we have some music we're going to release. And because of COVID, you know, everything kind of had to switch around. So, you know, we're going to drop an awesome project coming up, and I'm going to be featured as well as some South Africa artists and Image as well. So thank you guys for just allowing me to be on the stage. Appreciate it.
Great. Kahina?
Hi, this is Kahina Haynes. I am the Executive Director of the Dance Institute of Washington. Really excited to be discussing art, culture, and entertainment and the like with amazing panelists. So thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. All right, Jeff?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Tribble. I, too, am really excited to be here with these distinguished co-panelists. I'm the executive director of the Musicianship. We're a DC-based nonprofit organization also. We facilitate music lessons, experiences, and opportunities for youth.
Thank you. And last but not least, Swanky.
Hi, everyone. My name is Swanky, all the way from South Africa. And I am an independent artist. I'm a DJ on the decks. I've got radio experience, presenter, MC, host, eventing. Basically, I always classify myself as a creative, and it's great to be here and sharing ideas and information.
Yes, thank you for being with us this afternoon. And just wanted to reinforce the purpose of this panel is to talk about music and the arts. And so we have some people here that are viewing this, wanting to learn about being an independent artist, how to get off the ground. And so I want to start with you, Swanky, because you are an independent artist and you are located in South Africa. Tell us what your journey was and what advice you can give to aspiring artists who want to really get off the ground with music and take it to an international level as well.
I think for me, so I started the industry in 2017, went to one of our popular DJs in school. She's got a girls' school for DJing, so I attended the academy. And for me, I thought I was going to come in because I've always been a popular person wherever I am. And it wasn't the case. I had to prove myself that I can do this. It's still hard. It is very hard. It's even harder being a woman in South Africa because there's this trend of having to work your way up, so to speak. I don't know if it's a trend everywhere, but it's a trend I've experienced in South Africa. And being a person who's grounded, I know things that I can do or not. I believe in my talent, you know. With that said, for someone who's trying to get themselves in, be authentic. There's space for everyone. We might all be doing the same thing, but the way you do it might be very different. Trust yourselves. Be creative. Bring your own content. If people are not listening, push. There will definitely be someone out there who's going to understand your method, your madness, and stop this madness of sleeping your way up, because it just robs everyone from the hard work that we put in. So, yeah, just trust yourself, basically. Just trust yourself.
Yes. And it sounds like really with women and the artistry, it's a different journey. And you have to have integrity, you know. and trusting yourself. And so I want to shift to Entity because you come from a male angle with the artistry. And so tell us a little bit about your journey and any advice you can give to up and coming artists when it comes to the struggle of really building a musician brand.
Well, the first advice I would give, it's going to be hard, as Swanky was saying. It's super hard because you're trying to, inject your form of music to, everybody else, and you want everybody else to kind of embrace it. And what I would just advise people to do is just stay strong and stay focused on your purpose. And if you have a purpose with your music, most people want to get into the music for money.
Right.
I don't necessarily look at it as a thing where I can just jump in it and make millions of dollars. Right. I can do that, but it's also a process in building that. So yes. I would just say stick to your actual goals and your plans. Invest in yourself.
Yes.
Make sure that you are continuously researching and getting information on the industry because the industry is forever changing. So as an artist, as a vocalist, as a producer, you just got to stay up on everything. So
yes.
I would just advise everybody just, whoever's doing the music, just stay focused and stay purpose driven and keep your goal in mind and don't stop.
Yes, you have to keep the goal at mind. But it also takes organizations in the community who truly believe in the power of art and culture. And so I want to shift to Kahina and Jeff to talk about their organizations and really the why behind why they decided to be in the leadership of organizations that are really providing community impact when it comes to arts and culture. So my question to both of you guys is, how did you guys get into the community when it comes to amplifying arts, and why did you do it? So, Kahina, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Go ahead,
Thank
Kahina.
you. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. That's an excellent question. I think, speaking personally, my lived experience was such that art and the access to the opportunities that art provided really transformed my life. At a very early age, I was exposed, thankfully, to dance, specifically ballet, and a lot of the attributes that came with that training afforded me opportunities that, as I said, set me on a trajectory to transform, I think, the outcome of my life. And once I realized how inaccessible that was to most people, I knew what my calling was. I was like, okay, my purpose here is to make sure that opportunity can be accessible to any other kid. I have a personal philosophy that artists and creatives, we're not weird or crazy or eclectic. We just speak a different language. We dance to a slightly different beat. And I was that kid. I was that kid who things really didn't start making sense until I could see it and approach it through the lens of art. And so my journey was just to think about how to unlock that opportunity for so many young people who don't have access. And again, particularly dance, which is my purview. There's so many barriers. There's so many barriers to concert forms, money, transportation, supplies, education, you name it. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. And Dance Institute of Washington was just a perfect platform. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to serve there. And through that platform, amplify and really scale, ideally, these accessible opportunities for young people in DC. So, but that's my why, 100%, is paying it forward, creating those kinds of opportunities for young people who otherwise might not have the chance.
Yeah, I would have to echo that sentiment. I'm from Chicago and started playing the drums at the age of 3. And so much like Kahina, I was very much so involved in my form or my discipline of art, which is music, at a very young age, and had a very transformative effect in terms of what I did get involved in and what I did not get involved in. I was fortunate enough to have gotten a music scholarship to come out to DC. And so I did music all throughout college and then went to law school. But it was in my second year of law school where I really felt like I wanted to be a social engineer in a distinctly different way than my peers. And so whereas most people go to law school to like do mock trial court or, moot court board or whatever, I decided that I wanted to kind of give back to the community. And like Kahina said, just based on my own lived experience. So I started the musicianship. We had 2 students in our first year. It grew to nearly 2,000 now in DC, also South Africa, France, and the Caribbean. And so, it's really about facilitating experiences, opportunities that they can see themselves in, and providing a platform upon which they can be successful in other areas of life. So that was my own experience, and want to kind of recreate that narrative for similarly situated young people.
That's great. And I feel like the synergies is you all both had a background in the arts when you all started at a very young age. And as you all grew into your purpose, you saw that there was a need for that community impact and, again, amplifying the arts within the community. And what I really love that you guys touched on is because youth especially lack resources, minorities lack resources that they cannot financially be a part of certain organizations or clubs or dance studios or music lessons. And so I commend you all for stepping up to the plate as leaders to cultivate experiences that are free, that are saving lives as well, because as we know, art and culture saves lives. We know that there's research that shows that it helps with mental wellness. And so thank you all for sharing your why. And again, with the Swaliga Foundation, they have done some wonderful work with youth. And I know, Entity, you have played a vital role as well. I want to get into the international piece. And Swanky and Entity, I want you to talk about working across the country with different artists. Has there been any pain points or, I don't want to say issues, but is it easy to do that? A lot of times we look within our community, but we don't look outside the walls, especially within the DC community. We know that a lot of people don't even have a passport, and that's just not a DC issue. That's just an issue in general, specifically with people of color. So for you all, what have you all witnessed or experienced as far as pain points of international music, going beyond the walls of DC specifically for you, Entity? What have you experienced?
Well, I know just as of maybe 2 years ago, I just started to get more involved with working with artists internationally. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that, I know a lot of times international artists tend to look at American artists as, we made it already, mm-hmm. We have a lot of money or whatever, but it's really we're independent artists just like they are right. over there. We're trying to utilize as many resources and get as many chances and opportunities as they are. Mm-hmm. So, I think, just clearing that air, first and foremost, especially when we're dealing with artists internationally, because we can all benefit from each other. And right. that's what it's all about. It's about networking, benefit from each other, and just collaborating. And the collaborating is a beautiful thing, because it now shows that, I can take my sound, my DC sound, mm-hmm. and take it over to South Africa, and they can blend with it.
Right.
And they can take their sound, bring it over here, and I can blend with it. Right. So, I think it's been challenging, but it has worked out, and it has worked itself out just based on, our just continued effort and networking and mm-hmm. just growing with our music and our sound, right.
Right.
And we just start to get people to, migrate to us,
right.
So that's really what it is. And I love working with anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, mm-hmm. if you're a drummer, singer, vocalist, I don't care who you are, where you from. If you're dope, you're dope. I'm
right.
working with you. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's true. That is Entity's personality for sure. Which is great, because sometimes a lot of folks, specifically artists, they stay in one bubble because they don't understand the value of relationships. And it's sometimes hard to find artists that can be a people person and be able to produce really great music. And so to be able to have all that in one is really phenomenal. Swanky, what about you? how has it been for you working in South Africa with your musical brand and then also trying to bridge to the United States and spreading your music? Have you had any issues or have you had any pain points in your experience with that?
I think for me, let me start with South Africa. I think it's already hard to just break doors. We in a culture of social media so bad that we overlook talent. If you have got a huge following, you might not speak, but if you push a brand's agenda, already you're 10 steps ahead than someone who studied dancing, who studied music, who studied DJing, for example. So it is very hard. So you can imagine how clogged the drain is at this point. And pushing in, and it is so frustrating. In terms of international gigs, if it is so hard for me as an artist in Cape Town, I'm going to leave South Africa to get a gig, a simple gig. Can imagine how hard it will take me to get there. But it goes back to my point. If you are authentic, if you know yourself, if you trust yourself, if you believe, if you dream, if you're not going to compromise, eventually the right doors will open. Because if I'm worried that someone's social media is growing because they are doing things to attract audience, there comes a time and an age where all you can do is use your mind, use your creativity, and there'll be a new person who'll be better than you. And then what will you have learned? The beauty about South Africa now, I see that most of the international countries are very interested. We've got Bonang Mateba, who's an award-winning artist. Everyone is in love with Bonang Mateba. We love her in South Africa. She's just doing great. She's representing us well. We've got Thusam Pedu, your Trevor Noahs. I mean, there's just so much talent. Nomzamo Mbata, there's just so much talent there representing us. And it gives me hope that if you stick to your guns, swanks, if you believe in yourself, you will eventually get there. It might not be easy. It might take long, it might take 10 years. And something I always say, I'd rather take 10 years to get there than 2 years and be irrelevant. Because you learn every year, For me, it's about relevance. I want to shape, I want to change the industry. I even when I'm sitting with my partner, and then when you ask me, how far do you see yourself? I'm like, I see myself as the godmother of the entertainment industry because I want to open doors for women. I want to shape them. I want to take them away from this mentality that you need to work your way up. It really irritates me. It really hurts me to some degree because once you get there, it's harder to get away from it. So internationally, I know that gigs going to come, but authentically, I'm in no rush. I know that I'll be in the right spaces at the right time. And I'm just hoping even young artists, they take your time, these talents are God-given. And if we believe, it will happen, basically.
And steady wins the race for sure, because we know when we do things too quick, it ends quick. And on top of that, you just can't sustain moving too fast. And so I truly appreciate the words of advice that you have given. And when we're talking about the international lens, I want to go back to, again, the organizations that are supporting artists. I know, Jeff, you mentioned that the musicianship has an international lens as well. So can you tell us how you guys were able to scale that organization from being something that was DC specific to now having different countries that you guys also have your initiative in?
Sure. So in 2016, we started what's called our masterclass program. A lot of people are familiar with the masterclass format. But in our case, we're very fortunate to be aligned with industry successful musicians in the DC metropolitan area who kind of give of their time and talent to provide 1.5 hour music experiences for young people. And then we established a corporate partnership with Hard Rock Cafe International. I can actually remember this is a wacky story. This was actually in 2000. I guess it was 2016, early 2016. My wife went on a trip to Spain with her homegirls, and I was going to surprise her out there and propose. And I ended up like surprising her out there, and I proposed. And right, like shortly before I was about to propose, one of my homeboys who works at Hard Rock Cafe said, like, hey, you know, Hard Rock Cafe has this new program. They're looking for like music organizations specifically. I think you all would be a good fit. He was just like a bartender, not just a bartender, but he was a bartender. And I was really, really excited about that. But I was just like, yo, like I have this other task at hand, you know, that's like equally, if not more important, is more important, right? But, you know, one of the first things I did when I got back to my computer was connect with him, and ended up being able to pitch the head of global philanthropy for Hard Rock Cafe. And it's been like a springboard to our being able to do these, you know, programs and projects internationally. So we've done master classes, of course, in DC, but in Pretoria, in Johannesburg, and in Paris, and in the Caribbean, in St. Martin specifically. So it's been quite the journey, one that I'm particularly passionate about. I think it's my favorite program.
That's great. That's great. And those partnerships can really amplify the work that you want to do. And I know the Swaliga Foundation has wonderful partners as well that allows them to have that global reach. So there's synergy when it comes to partnership. Kahina, do you guys have an international lens as well with the Dance Institute? Or are you guys more locally based in servicing the DC community?
Yes, that is correct. We are locally based. We service primarily DC, Maryland, Virginia. Informally, one of the things COVID, though, has introduced with us transitioning to a virtual platform is that we are now actually able to engage and offer classes virtually to students from various, like I wouldn't say international, but certainly nationally, which for us is a big step. So we have students right now in New York, we have students from Philly, we have students from, I think Philly's in Pennsylvania, but New York, Pennsylvania, and there was a couple other states kind of similarly situated on the East Coast. So that was really new for us. Outside of that, we've done, historically, our founder, Fabian Barnes, did take students abroad, which is something I'd love to be able to do. You know, in the future, things should things pan out. But no, we are primarily based in DC, serving locally. But it has been interesting to see kind of the national landscape sort of come to our doors. That's been very exciting, very exciting. And students who were at DW but moved. So they like to train at DW, but then move to like Atlanta or move to other places. They're not able to get back, and the kids remember each other. So the sessions are just this exciting, just like reconnecting, re-engaging. And it's really powerful because you can see that sense of community and kinship. And I think it speaks to that its power, the fact that it has been maintained even, you know, over boundaries, regional boundaries. So that's been very cool, very new, new for us, but exciting.
Yes, yes. And I know all of us have had to pivot with the current climate. And that is really the final question I have for you guys. And then I would like for you guys to kind of close out. But what trends have you all seen in the art and cultural industry now? With the pandemic, we know that things have shifted virtually, which creates more opportunities as we discussed. So now we have the opportunity to reach internationally more than we would in our typical day-to-day. But is there any other trends that you guys have noticed from an artist perspective and from a organization perspective? And it can be good and bad. What trends have you guys embarked on? Entity?
Testing. Okay, all right, here I am. All right, so I think now that COVID has happened, it's definitely been a major adjustment. The virtual shows are definitely going to have to come into play a lot more. I think more so just developing a brand that is going to do more than just music. You know, so that's what Swaliga is doing with partnering with Olay Entertainment, is developing programs and initiatives to do things outside of music. So involving the STEAM project, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So with that, steaming the block, we're going to steam the block every year. We're going to keep it moving for the community, for the families, and, you know, just developing a long-standing or sustaining like programs that can actually move in the future, you know, as opposed to just now, you know. So I think, you know, moving towards, like, I would say the next 5 years, that's what a lot of organizations are going to start doing, which is like involving more music programs, but also therapeutic programs, mental health programs, things that are going to, you know, increase wellness. So that's what we want to focus on. We want to focus more on that. And, you know, through that, the music is going to shine, you know, because our music is already involving that information anyway. Like, we're already giving you the positive, inspirational, motivational nuggets every time we, you know, drop a song. So, you know, we want to continue to push through. So
yes, I have to really give you guys kudos, because Ole, you all have been able to integrate your music within Swaliga programming through Steam the Block. And so it's really great to know that you can integrate music in a way that's different and not your typical, oh, it's a virtual conference and we're releasing, or a virtual concert and we're releasing our new album. You all are playing the music day to day. It's funny, Entity was playing the music while we were prepping, so it's in their blood, and I love the energy that that gives, because that speaks to who you are. You truly are passionate about it, so that's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I know, Swanky, you probably feel the same way. I know you're passionate about your music. What trends have you seen with everything going on with this global pandemic? Has there been opportunities for you that maybe wasn't before, but now is currently?
I think for me, so when I came into the industry, I was known as Swanky the DJ. And it was already hard because the type of sound I play deep take. And everyone was like, why do you play this sound? No one will book you, because there's Amapiano, there's just so much happening musically in South Africa. So I found my niche, and I knew that this is the sound. Whether it takes me longer or takes me quicker, I've just chosen the sound. With that said, so obviously now there's no more gigs happening, so I had to find a way to keep myself relevant. So with so much happening in South Africa as a nation, I capitalized on that. I've got a platform on my Facebook called Swanky Chats, where I touch all taboo topics all over. I will tell it like it is. To most people, to some people, it could be exposing. To other people, it's to educate. To others, is to heal. For others, is to, oh, wow, Swanky, how courageous are you to talk about these things? And majority of the time, I think through my vlogging experience, I've managed to have chats about my life, but to empower you. So I've got those platforms, the Swanky Chats on Facebook, and I have started sort of tabloiding, just keeping everyone up to date, because so much was happening in South Africa. So I have an Instagram show called The Scoop with Swanky, where I just give you a recap on what's been happening in South Africa for the past week. So I've seen how it has really transformed me, because I've had people asking me, how did you, from a DJ, from being Swanky the DJ to being just Swanky, how did you do it? And I told them, I just tapped into myself. So for me, the COVID period really allowed me to tap into myself, to be more creative, to trust myself. I get people all the time, who edits your videos? I'm like, hello, I do it myself. I research, I've got YouTube, I've got these platforms, you know, and I don't let anything stand in my way, or for me, if it does not talk, it will work. We are going to work together. We'll find a way of making it work. So for me, it has been a great positive. I don't just post for the sake of posting. I post with intention. If I heal on that day, I get messages in and out on my inbox. Thank you for being my voice, for being our voice. That's even a hashtag that I've adopted. So my hashtag is #I'm your voice. I'm okay for you telling me what's happening. I personalize it to myself, because I know that each and every somewhere in our lives, we've experienced one thing one way or another, whether it's an absent father, a single mother, being a single parent. There's just so much happening. So I go for those topics. I touch them all over to heal, most importantly, to heal. And it has worked for me. And I've seen people looking at me and thinking, this girl is in 2025 and here we are in 2020. And I've always wanted to be like that, because it means there's something right that I'm doing. By the time they catch up with me, I'll be in the forefront again, trying something new again. And hence, it goes back to my point of being the godmother of entertainment industry. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm just trying, and it's all about trying. It's all about trying all the time. So yeah, basically that's it for me.
Yes. Said a mouthful. And one of the things that I love is what you speak about is now the artist has to be more creative than ever. And now people are looking at what's your walk like outside of the music. And so the way that you've already been ahead of the game is you've created your platform to show people your personality outside of the music, to show your healing power, and to show that you're tapped into what's going on within the community and reporting back. And so that's great. And I think that is a trend too, is now we're seeing who's really about the music. Who are you behind the music, right? And so that's awesome. And from that, that's how you create those loyal fans that literally is with you from the beginning to the end. And so I commend you for taking that opportunity to do that. And with you as well, Entity, as you were talking about, you know, making sure the music is always energy, which is great. And so just want to shift again back to the organizations that support the arts and the music. Specifically wanted to pivot to Jeff and the musicianship. I know for me, I was heartbroken that the Whammies didn't happen this year, but you all shifted to virtual. And I truly believe you guys were one of the first organizations that showed how to do it right. You guys tapped into local influencers, Marcus Cook, the Media Prince, to host the awards and to shout out the artists that won. Tell us about that pivot and how you guys are still creating that type of movement, because a lot of artists within the DMV were looking forward to that opportunity. And as we know, in-person experiences are just, now I'm missing it so much. I love music. I love live music. I love awards. And so, Jeff, just tell us a little about that transition and maybe some learnings that you had with having to shift to that virtual platform.
Yeah, well, for folks who don't know, the musicianship also stewards a couple of community engagement brands. One is the Washington Area Music Awards, affectionately referred to as the Whammies, which is what she's referring to. We sort of celebrate and honor DC area musicians. It's a 32-year-old music award show. And it was scheduled to happen on the last weekend of March. And as most of us know, that's sort of when the outbreak really happened. And I actually learned watching TV that the Whammies wasn't happening because it was scheduled to happen at the Lincoln Theater. And when the Lincoln Theater decided that they weren't going to be doing any more events, I think I later got a text message from one of the directors at the theater saying that we wouldn't do it. But, you know, of course, like many others, we had to make the tough decision to adjust quickly and do it virtually, though it was, you know, a couple months after. I mean, I appreciate your kind words, Ashley. We really just, I don't want to say we threw it together, but we had to do something. And we knew that we had to get these awards out. We were really kind of holding out hope that some other partners would work alongside us in the effort, and some things kind of fell through. So we ended up having to stitch it together ourselves. I will say a couple things about content. Now we're seeing one of two types of content generally. One is like live content, you know, through Zoom or whatever the case may be. And then there's on-demand or pre-recorded content. And so we decided, for the sake of risk mitigation, that we wanted to do on-demand content. We wanted to be able to control the narrative. We wanted to be able to do multiple takes if necessary, because we felt as though that was the kind of the cleanest and at that time the safest way to get things done. So that was really kind of the direction that we decided to go down ultimately, and we think that we did as good as we could given the circumstances.
Absolutely. And it's all about pivoting and putting the pieces back together as much as you can. I heard really great things about the virtual experience. So although you may have seen the cracks in the back end, we didn't see it, and that's all that matters. So kudos to you guys. And Kahina, I wanted to see for you all, I know you talked about now you guys are doing virtual classes for dancing. Has there been any learnings that you have experienced with this virtual teaching?
Certainly. Before addressing that, I want to respond to the trends, if that's okay. Because I had something that I really wanted to mention. It's not a negative, but a trend that I have observed and I think was common for a lot of organizations, is I saw stakeholders and kind of society at large mistakenly, which I think was a huge mistake, kind of back burner arts and creativity, like the creative realm, like when it came down to it, right? Like, and everyone having to decide what was essential. I saw kind of the arts community really backburnered. And the reason why I thought that was such a mistake, and I was happy to see that kind of turn around once, artists started voicing and advocating, is that I think not people, but sometimes art is viewed as like static, right? As like very like transactional, like I'm doing kind of a service or an art form and you're on the receiving end. I'm the creator, you're the receiver, but it's not. It's a lifestyle, its own kind of thing that permeates life. And it was one of the saving graces. Like if you look, at least in the DMV region, at some of the most innovative, and now to hear Swanky's response earlier, some of the most innovative and creative responses to the pandemic came from artists. You know what I mean? Like they came from artists, and they were addressing therapy, they were addressing trauma, they were addressing economic needs, they were addressing educational, like DIW. So now to answer your question, DIW partnered with DCPS. In fact, in their early days of COVID, as they were navigating in sort of incubator mode, what virtual classes and training would look like. And it hit me like, here it is, DIW being turned to as sort of a source of knowledge, but in the very beginning, you would have never thought of an artistic organization as being the go-to for that type of information. So for us, I think DIW, I really tried to, it was less about the dance classes, but more about reinforcing that artistic platforms should actually be being uplifted right now and being leveraged. We're not the afterthought. Like, we are just as essential. So with that, we took a different approach. We had our own classes online, but we actually designed something called an online learning center. And it was kind of a hub on our website, like a landing page that had a lot of information, resources, not just our classes, but like the classes of other dance organizations, but also COVID testing centers, where people can get food, where people can get like all of that. It was kind of like what Jessica, we kind of threw it together. But that's what artists do. We're resilient, we're responding, we're not, we have that skill to really bob and weave and be agile. So I think DIW definitely dove in. And our learnings and takeaways were that, we don't need to feel like we don't have value, or that artistic organizations have nothing to contribute in this wake of, a public health crisis, or in the wake of other pandemics, racial injustice and discrimination. No, artists have very much a role to play and are relevant. And so that was our learning. It was like, we can do more than just dance classes right now. And how are we going to take these learnings and support, different elements of community, society, really amplify that. So that was our learning. And I just wanted to mention that, don't count out the artists. We are definitely essential.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because you guys are. And even from a national perspective, you see a lot of celebrities now that are hosting panels on mental health that are really talking about some real things that we have not seen before. And it's because I truly believe the pandemic has made us, especially artists, because they don't have the stage to hide, anymore. Now they're sitting in the walls of their home like, okay, what am I going to do to make money? And then on top of that, like, I'm going through it right now. So the music, at this point, I'm looking at all the artists like, y'all should be coming out with the most popping track right now, because the creativity is bananas because we don't have the typical platforms that we used to have as artists. And so what I really want to highlight with you is now you guys as an organization are being a thought leader in this space. You're not just seen as the dance organization. You guys are seen as, no, we're leading a movement when it comes to art and culture and making sure that is top of mind because it is healing people during this time. Art is always going to be a healer. I'm a true ambassador of that. And that's why I love it so much because I know music has healed me personally and it continues to do so. So I just want to thank you guys, each and every one of you all on this panel for just continuing to be you and true within your purpose and your passion, continuing to be a leader when it's hard. When people want to pull back budgets and say that arts and humanities doesn't matter when it truly does. I thank you guys for just showing up with your authentic self and your brand and continuing to do that during this time. And so without further ado, I would love if each of you all could just tell how people can be connected with you. If there are any opportunities for people to serve or be a part of your movement, let them know how they can do it and how they can be connected. Please provide your email, your social, all that good stuff. Entity?
All right. Well, ours is pretty simple. It's OLENT.com. You can find out all our information on there, the artists that we work with. We just dropped 2 new projects, the Folk Core Collective Volume 2. Also, we dropped Steam the Block, Book of Revolution. Yes, these are 2 of the hottest projects right now, humbly speaking. But yes, you need to go check it out, OLENT. All of our information on it is on there. You can subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to our email, mailing list, all of that on OLENT.com. And I'm Entity, by the way, so you can follow me at Entity, ENTATY Music, okay? All right, I'm also lead singer for UCB, so you'll see us, playing in different venues and stuff like that. So, you'll see me around, but Entity Music, ENTATY Music.
The jack of many trades.
Absolutely. And I'm also a DJ too, Swing. So,
Back-to-back session.
Swinky, let us know how we can get connected with you, sister.
All right. On my Facebook and YouTube channel, it is Swanky RSA. And then on my Instagram and Twitter, it is Swanky_RSA. And my hashtag, I'm your voice, hashtag Swanky RSA. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. All right. Moving right along to Kahina and closing out with Jeff.
Sure. So everyone, I would encourage you to please check out our website. That is definitely the central hub, and it will have the extensions to all of our social media platforms, and that's going to be www.danceinstituteofwashington.org. So check it out. And again, our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those are there. I too have a personal page at Kahina Haynes on Instagram, but it's all DIW related. So that's more where if you want to get involved, you want to join us, join our team, join our revolution, definitely find me on Instagram and you can DM me and I will connect you to the right people.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
To learn more about our work, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, also just at The Musicianship. Our website is www.themusicianship.org. And if you're interested in any of my personal projects, which I don't really have any other personal projects outside of work and family at this point in life, you can follow me at Jeff Tribble Jr. I just changed my Zoom name. So, yep.
Very nice. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you to all the wonderful panelists. It has been an honor to moderate this wonderful discussion. Again, my name is Ashley Johnson. You can connect with me on Instagram. My personal page is @QueenAshAsh. You can follow our company page, which we do PR marketing for entertainment and lifestyle nonprofit brands @ANJPR Consulting LLC. Also visit our company website, www.anjprconsultingllc.com. Thank you all so much. I've had a wonderful time with each and every one of you. I feel like I've learned some jewels that I'm going to pocket myself. And so thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye. Everyone take care.
Bye.
Before we leave, Ramon wants us to do Swaliga, baby. Can you coach us to how you want us to say it?
So on the count of three, if everybody's still on the phone, if y'all still there, on the count of three, we're gonna say Swaliga, baby. Okay, so we'll count down three, and we're gonna say Swaliga, baby. All right. So let's count down. All right, 1, 2, 3. Swaliga, baby.
Thank you, guys.
All right.